All right, we're back. Building thinking classrooms. Whew, this is the one. Where do I even begin? My student teacher suggested it, had a neat title, listen to an hour podcast with the author, Peter Liljedahl. Spoke with two colleagues, one of which had done some interning under him at Simon Fraser, which was really exciting. The other which had picked up the book recently. When listening to his podcast, had a ton of huge connections to what I've been trying to do with the problem-solving classroom. And I think this is, in a lot of ways, the next step in legitimizing a classroom where children truly solve problems. So that's where I'm starting. I got the book, read the introduction today. Very excited. Some key takeaways. I mean, just basically, he describes the journey that got him to where he's at today. It's 15 years of research. I think it's 400 classrooms, well-defined problems, well-defined definitions of success, real-world observation, in-class research, all the stuff that I really love. I'm really excited. Some neat new concepts. This idea of studenting. That's like what a kid does in school, which some of which is learning, but a lot of which is just like being a student. How they defined this feeling of students not thinking. The premise is, in the traditional classroom, there is a whole bunch of students not thinking. And I think that we can pretty easily just agree on that. But Liljedahl, Peter, actually defines the 5 things that happen in the now you try one task, which is the traditional teaching of, hey, I'm going to show you what we do. Now you try one. Slacking, stalling, faking, mimicking, and trying it on their own. About 20% try it on their own, and that's what you actually want. But 20% is not a good number. About 50% mimic, and I think that is the stickiness of this style of teaching is when you see students mimicking, it does look like thinking, and so that's, I think, why it continues. He's very clear that these aren't even teacher or school norms. They're institutional norms. They're bred into what the North American school system has been, and it's deeply, deeply entrenched. And then he talks about which things, what changes, which disruptions lead to more thinking, and he describes how they would study this in 2-week cycles, and when they found something that seemed to increase thinking, they would expand it to more teachers and then do a 6-week cycle, and then they'd find the optimal practice for local thinking, that worked with that teacher, but then see if it worked with a bunch of teachers, because they're trying to boil it down to the best practices for thinking in the mathematics classroom. And they boiled it down to 14. What types of tasks, how we form collaborative groups, where students work, how we arrange furniture, how we answer questions, how tasks are given, what homework looks like, how we foster student autonomy, how we use hints and extensions, how we consolidate a lesson, how students take notes, how we choose to evaluate, how we use formative assessment, and how we grade. The hook practice that my student teacher mentioned and he talks about a lot is vertical spaces. And so the idea of having a collaborative group of 4 working on vertical spaces around the classroom is kind of a keystone version of building thinking classrooms, but it's obviously a lot more. There's micro moves and macro moves, and we're just getting to it. I think the connection to me is really this idea that I've been trying to build problem-solving classrooms for 3 years now. 10 years, but really 3. And this is where I'm at currently. This is my problem-solving board. And this is that definition of problem-solving. Learning through problem solving should be the focus of mathematics at all grade levels. When students encounter new situations and respond to questions of the type, how would you or how could you, the problem solving approach is being modeled. Students develop their own problem solving strategies by listening to, discussing, and trying different strategies. That's from the Program of Studies, 2001, I think. And that's what I'm trying, and that's what the Program of Studies says in Alberta. But it's not my experience of what I've seen in math classrooms. And so I think what's exciting about this book is that it's new and it's it's how. Because he goes through a story with one of his first colleagues that wanted to try the thinking classroom. And she was a very experienced teacher of 15 years that did the classic, I show, then you try. And it went terribly when she tried to give her students these kind of more open-ended questions. And I think that happens often at the beginning, and I think that that's something to try to work through. So I'm very excited. That was the introduction. Some goals I have are to read chapters 1 through 3 this week and then try something with it next week. I also want to connect with the 2 colleagues that are reading it and try to plant some seeds with a few other key colleagues who may be excited. And I also want to not only plant seeds, but actually see where we're already doing this. Because I think that's a pitfall I have, is that I assume that we're too traditional already, and who knows, maybe we do a lot of this already. So that's that.